Welcome to the Somos Sunnyside podcast, brought to you by the Communications Department of the Sunnyside Unified School District. Thank you for tuning in while we share stories about the bright side of education.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Somos Sunnyside. That's right, we are Sunnyside and I'm Jose Gastelum, the proud superintendent of the Sunnyside Unified School District. And we got another great show for you today. We got some amazing guests here that have served in many roles in this district. And we're here to talk to you. We're here to give you information about things that are going on in this district. So we're gonna get right into it. So my three guests, so we got a group today. Our three guests are, we're gonna start here to my left. We have Hilaria Szelog, who is a fifth grade teacher at Los Amigos. So hello, Mrs. Szelog. I just love saying your last name, Szelog. And I've learned how to say it because the S is silent, right?
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome. And we're going to get into this a little bit later. Mrs. Szelog, cool fun fact, is a finalist for Tucson Values Teacher of the Year finalist, and I know Raytheon is part of that as well.
Raytheon Leaders in Education Award, yeah.
Absolutely. So it's such a prestigious honor and recognition that you're one of the finalists, and it's well deserved because I've been in your classroom many times and I see the amazing things you do with your kiddos. So congrats on that, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So also over here to my right, we have the proud principal of Santa Clara, Mrs. Elda Peña. Welcome, Mrs. Peña.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and Miss Peña has deep roots here in Sunnyside, and we'll let her talk a little bit about that here in a minute. And to my right, no stranger to Somos Sunnyside. I don't know, this is your second or third appearance or something like that, but we have Mr. Andy Townsend, Executive Director of Student Services. And welcome again, Mr. Townsend.
Happy to be back. Thank you.
All right. So again, I think I always want to start our show off in terms of our listeners knowing who's in the room, right? And talking a little bit about, your journey, your educational journey, how you landed here in Sunnyside and what you're doing now in Sunnyside. And I think we should start there. So let's start with Ms. Szelog. I mentioned she's a fifth grade teacher at Los Amigos. And so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I, this is my 11th year of teaching, 10th year in the district. I student taught here at Los Amigos in 2014, 2015. My mentor teacher, Mr. Mian, shout out, I always shout him out. He is now the librarian at Craycroft, but he was my mentor teacher and I just fell in love with the district. I'm originally from Florence, Arizona. I graduated from Florence High School, so I went home for a year, but I missed Tucson, specifically Los Amigos, so much. So I came back and I haven't left since. So. And
here you are, a candidate for Tucson Values Teacher of the Year. So yes. So awesome. And Ms. Peña, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you have deep roots, but let's let the listeners hear about you.
Yes, so I'm a native Tucsonan. I grew up in the South Side. I did go to TSD elementary school, middle school, but did graduate from and attended all 4 years of Desert View High School, so I'm a proud Desert View alumni. This is my 17th year in education. I started as a student teacher actually at Liberty Elementary School, and then I was hired by Mr. Robertson at Craycroft Elementary School as a third grade teacher, taught there for 6.5 years, and then moved up to the ITC role, which is the instructional technology coach role for 2 years there, and then applied as an academic behavior support specialist and was accepted at Liberty Elementary School and did my ABSS role there for 6 years, and this is my 4th year at Santa Clara Elementary School as a proud principal.
Awesome. So you just climbed that ladder. Proud Desert View graduate, proud Jaguar, and have 17 years in the district, and now you're leading the Santa Clara Bulldogs, right? And
very proudly, yes.
That's awesome, and congratulations for all the work you're doing there.
Thank you.
I'm just going to spill the beans here, because the letter grades have come in, and Santa Clara is a strong B. Is that right?
That is correct, and we're just so proud. Shout out to our Santa Clara staff and teachers and leadership team who've worked so hard to make this happen. As always, we have growth to make, and we are going to keep pushing. We are really competing for that A. We have Elvira right there down the street. But yeah, we've worked hard, and we will continue to work hard to strive for that A.
Absolutely. Congratulations. That's a huge, huge accomplishment. With your leadership, and I know it takes a village, right? It takes the entire team to believe in our kids, believe in our community, believe in what we're doing, to make those gains and that growth, and super proud of our Santa Clara Bulldogs, and we know that they're going to continue to move forward. And speaking of Elvira, we got Mr. Townsend here, who was the former principal at Elvira, but I'll let him tell you the story.
Well, there is some stories to tell, but before that, I want to congratulate the ladies that are in our group here today. Mrs. Szelog, I have been in your classroom as well, so the Raytheon finalist situation is no surprise. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see how that runs. And then Mrs. Peña, I've been in your school many times, and it's an honor to walk through because I know how much time and effort you put in over there. So congratulations. For myself, this is year 20, Mr. Gastelum. And while I was listening to the introductions here before me, I was thinking about my little path. And 20 years ago, I got a call from the Elvira principal, Tom Hubbard, who was looking for a 5th grade teacher. And it was a really unique hiring situation. It wasn't the standard path. So I actually drove down there to meet with him one day and got a speeding ticket, which was funny because I look back on that and I'm like, wow, I was really in a hurry to get down to Elvira, where I'd never been. I never knew what. I thought Elvira was like some 80s TV show, like Mistress of the Dark, right? And I got down there, and it was this Pepto Pink school, literally 20 years ago when I got there, and I was like, where am I? What is this pink school?
I think that was like an official district color back then, because there was a lot of that Pepto Pink going on, right?
We have the salmon color.
Right.
That's a kind word to choose, salmon. But it was Pepto Pink. But you know what? I got the job, taught there, fell in love with the school and the kids and the community. Went down the street for 2 years to Challenger as an assistant principal. Was just happy to stay in the community because I just loved it there so much. Had the chance to go back to Elvira's principal. Was there for 10 years. Kelly Brooks, who's now the principal, has these deep Elvira roots. We used to teach together and work together over there. So I'm thrilled that she's there. And this is year 3 in the district building. So here we are.
Absolutely. So, I just love to, and I say it with pride, our schools are doing well, in terms of letter grades, in terms of graduation rates. That's always exciting. So people are putting in the work, and I think the work behind, the reason we put in that work is what's behind all this is students, right? It's the student experience. And, we talk a lot about it in our mission statement and our vision, each child being college, career, and community ready. Our values, that we're a learning community. We empower, empowerment. Some of the important words there, and it all goes back to students. We want them to leave this district, with options to be successful, right? And so, the student experience is something we talk a lot about, and there's a lot of tangibles, right? There's a lot of things that go into the student experience, but the work that you guys are doing at our sites, and today, we did this purposefully. We have a teacher in the room, we have a principal in the room, we have an executive director in the room, and of course me. But we did this intentionally because we want to hear different perspectives, right, about the student experience. And right around the corner is election season, and one of the things that we want to talk a little bit about is Proposition 416. Which is a bond for Sunnyside Unified School District. It's a $120 million bond, and it's the projected annual tax increase is about $44 a year. It's $3.67 a month on an assessed valued home of $100,000, right? And I'm not talking market value. We're talking assessed value of $100,000. So it's about $3.67 a month, $44 a year, as I just mentioned. And the reason we have to go to our community and ask for bonds like this is because public education, the state of Arizona, the federal government, they just don't fund public education the way it should be funded, right? And it puts pressure on school districts. If they want to operate efficiently, they got to go out to their communities and ask them for bonds. And our goal is to always message accurate, factual information. And that's what we're here to do today, is to message accurately, and individuals will vote how they feel they need to vote. We successfully passed an override in 2023. We passed 2 overrides, but we asked for the minimum because we hadn't passed one in about 16 years. And so now we're in a need where the district really has a deep need to fix up our schools, bring our schools up to par. This is a conversation about aging buildings. We have 21 schools in the district, and the average age of our schools is 39 years old. And Sunnyside High School just turned 70 years old, right? So we all know that, some of us that have lived in old house, I've been in my house for, I think now 24, 25 years, and things break down, right? I mean, things happen where there's upkeep that needs to happen. And one of the things I want to share with the listeners is this isn't just Sunnyside saying these are the needs. We had experts that came in last year and they went through every single school and they did an assessment of every school. And they came back and said, look, we rated your schools 1 through 5 and you had not one school hit a 4. I think our highest rating was 3.6. And what they're saying is we have about $88 million in repairs that need to be done within 5 years. And these are just repairs, not remodels. One of the things that we'd like to do also is Sunnyside High School needs a major renovation. That school's 70 years old, and those classroom spaces need to be upgraded. We need a more modernized classroom environment for our students. And I will say this, and I'll say this every time. Our kids deserve this. Our students deserve this. They deserve to walk into schools with everything that operates, that they feel good about their schools, that our parents feel good about our schools, and our employees feel good about our schools. I don't care if you're classified, certified, an administrator. It's your working environment, and it's affected by the conditions of your working environment, right? Your performance sometimes is it affects it, right? So with that said, I want to talk a little bit about, and I'll say this, and I'm going to hand it over to you all to talk a little bit about your thoughts on this, is, not only is this $128 million bond going to take care of upgrades in terms of building improvements, but there's also pieces like critical safety and security improvements. There's athletic and fine arts facility upgrades that we need to figure out. Our some of our band rooms are a little old that we need to fix up. Some of our dance rooms are a little old that we need to fix up. And so we need more modernized buildings. This will also take care of structural, mechanical, plumbing, electrical systems, those types of things. Classroom technology and student transportation. When we talk about buses, right? We have to have, buses that operate to make sure we're able to transport students. So every single school will get something out of this bond. And, but again, we want our community, we want our taxpayers to understand what they are voting for. And so with that, I just kind of want to open the floor to you all to talk a little bit about, your thoughts on Proposition 416, the need, some of your experiences and what you've seen and how that affects what we're here to talk about is the student experience, right? So I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor, and I'm going to start with Mr. Townsend here, who, as he mentioned earlier, has changed roles. Now has been at district office for the last, 3 years, and as the executive director of student services, and he's had a chance to get outside the Elvira bubble, right? And you've had a chance to visit all our sites, and so you've seen firsthand some of the conditions that our sites are in. And so tell us a little bit about, what are your thoughts on Proposition 416 here?
Well, Mr. Costello, I think you hit a lot of nails on the head with kind of your overview. And then I love right now in this segue where you said, our sites. that's a piece to me that I'm constantly thinking about. And, you look at, back in the day, probably Elvira people got sick of me talking about pronouns. It's never your class or your students or their, group or this and that. It's ours, and for me, for years, I always had that at a site. And then now the last couple of years being outside the site, like I see our entire district that way. Literally over 13,000 kids are our kids, 21 sites. And having the opportunity to go there and see, all the different unique needs, it's not something that site or that principal has to deal with. It's things that we have to deal with, and these are our kids. And another nail that you hit on the head that I love that is never, ever going to be something that we can't ground this conversation in is our kids deserve the best, our kids, right? And a lot of times when we talk to, community members or, just anyone in general that, maybe doesn't know a lot about bonds and overrides and why does this happen or why is the school district asking us, right? Depending on where you live in the city, right? There's probably a school district that's coming to you or putting something in your mailbox, right? It happens statewide. It happens in Cat Foothills. It happens in Scottsdale, right? It's not a situation where Sunnyside District is asking us for something again, right? That's not the case. We're all in the same situation statewide where we have to come to our community and we have to say, we really need you to invest in our schools, right? And the reason why is because we don't have the level of funding that our kids deserve in order to thrive. We can get by, and we see that. We see people doing the very best they can. I love going to sites and I see all this love that goes in, right? You might go to a school maybe the week after they had a Make a Difference Day. And there's flowers and there's maybe a fresh coat of paint. There's all these things that people can do, right? Just by kind of rallying the troops, right? You can just put your personal touch on it. But when it comes to the amount of cost for these high level like items that are built into this bond, I mean, those things are in the ceilings, they're behind the walls. I mean, those are like multi-million-dollar things that you can't polish up on a Saturday with 20 volunteers, right? So there's a definite need out there, and getting around to the sites, like one thing that I never ever miss is how much love and effort is at every site. Every single site leader, every single school employee, classified teachers, they all care deeply about our kids, right? They all do the best they can every day. But in order for us to be at the level that our kids deserve consistently, we have to have the community support.
Yeah, so and you bring up a great point. I mean, it doesn't matter where you live. I mean, wherever you live, you're going to be asked to vote for these types of bonds, because public schools need funds to operate. And as I mentioned earlier, we're just not funded appropriately. And so, one of the things that, as I talk to a lot of community members, they always want to know, well, what's this going to, right? And this is going to buildings, this is going to facilities. And speaking of facilities, I know it was the second or third day of school, Miss Peña, when Santa Clara, we get a call. I got a call at 4:30 in the morning that you had a water main break, right? And that's the type of things that we're talking about. And so I want you to talk a little bit about that situation, but talk about some of the needs that Santa Clara has. I mean, Santa Clara is one of our oldest buildings. I'm not gonna quote the year, but it's been around a long time. Was it day 1, day 2, or 3?
It was day 2.
Day 2.
Of after the first day of school. And so it was the full first day, and so I will quote it. In 1972, Santa Clara was built, so it's 53 years old.
Yeah.
And yes, I woke up to a text, and thankfully my custodian goes in early enough to be able to have caught it on time. I'm an early bird myself as well, so I was able to get in. But we woke up to a big water rupture, a water pipe rupture near the front of the building. This isn't the first rupture. This is about the third time where they've had to go into the concrete and things like that. But the whole goal of this concern that happened was to not disrupt student learning and to be able to address it before the students came in. So we got in, we had Dr. Morado, we had Mr. Townsend, everybody was there to support us, and we were able to communicate with parents. We were able to address the situation. Because the maintenance was there already digging into the concrete. They were working on fixing the pipe, and thankfully within an hour and a half we had it all ready to go. We had porta potties, we had everything that our students needed, so it didn't disrupt classroom time, it didn't disrupt academic time. Teachers were aware of it, but it didn't disrupt. And so I think that was the power of how the importance of Proposition 416 is that it really supports what we need. And the most important, and I'll piggyback to what Mr. Townsend was saying, was we do it for our students, and our teachers and our staff give everything that they can to be able to support our kids. This is our second homes for many of us. We go from one house to another, and the second home is our schools, and then we go back to. So we spend a lot of time, maybe more time in our schools than in our homes, right? And aside from that, a lot of us have choices. And for example, my kids come to Sunnyside District, and I'm very proud of that. We want what's best for them. They come here because we trust our teachers, and I wouldn't have them anywhere else. And so I can only imagine the day that they either go to Sunnyside or Desert View and think about the experience that they will have that I didn't have, right. And the pride that they will feel with a modern building.
Absolutely.
And then most importantly, our students that we serve at Santa Clara, at Los Amigos, at Elvira, wherever they're at, that pride that they will feel when they go into middle school and high school that maybe they didn't have right now at Santa Clara, and being able to come into a school and say, wow, this is my school, this is what I feel proud of, this is where I'm comfortable learning, and then that our teachers feel that comfort. They don't have to worry about, is it going to be too cold, is it going to be too hot, is there going to be, is it rainy day schedule, and then there's leaks from the ceiling, that there's fences working properly. And I'm very big, and my team at Santa Clara will make fun of me and call me Martha Stewart, because I like things to look pretty. I like things to look good, and it might be just like a balloon garland that we put up. It might be a background for pictures, the Bulldog Gala, red carpet, things like that, and the pride that we will have when we're able to say our community came together collectively to serve our students, whether they went to the Sunnyside District or they graduated, and my grandkids, or I have no more kids there.
I love where you're going with that, and real quick before I hit on that piece, I want to go back to that day too when there was the water main break. I remember being there that morning, and our maintenance team, I want to give them a shout out, because they were out there, they handled that thing quickly. I mean, they dug up the line, they found the leak, they repaired it, and school went without interruption, but what people need to realize is that it could have been a disaster that day, right? It could have been where we had to shut down school that day, send kids home that day, because of these types of things that are occurring. And again, we have aging buildings that need to be addressed. We got major repairs that need to be taken care of. Now I want to hit on the other point that you mentioned about this sense of pride, and I love that you pay attention to details, whether they call you Martha Stewart or not. They call you Elda Stewart, but that means you pay attention to detail, because you deeply care about how kids feel, about how parents feel, and you care that they feel special, right? And so the first day of school things that we do for our kids, right, whether they're in the classroom or they're coming through the office, you want them to feel special. You want them to feel welcomed. And you do a great job of that, and many of our schools do a great job of that. And one of the best compliments I can get, as a leader in this district, is when I'm at a school site, whether it be an activity, whether it be at at some school event, and they come in and say, God, you guys have done a lot around here. Oh, you guys have really done a lot with Sunnyside High School, or with Desert View High School, or one of our, at Los Amigos Elementary. Man, the paint looks great, the new sign, that type of thing. Because we do that intentionally. We want people to walk into our campuses and noticing the changes that are happening, right? Whether it's a security booth, a parking lot, whether it's fresh paint. I mean, that matters. And Mr. Townsend alluded it to earlier. What you don't see, and you alluded to earlier, is we call it the hidden ugliness. You don't see what's behind the walls. You don't see what's on the roof, what's below the ground. And that is what needs to be repaired. A lot of those repairs. I think we have about $50 million in repairs just in that area, in those mechanical issues and those things. But before we go to Mrs. Szelog, we're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Sunnyside students can have it all, learning and growing to graduate college, career, and community ready. Don't believe us? Just watch. At Sunnyside Unified School District, we are preparing our graduates with real-world skills and experiences. Our graduates are leaving Sunnyside to pursue an Ivy League education, becoming collegiate-level athletes, and earning prestigious scholarships such as the Gates Millennium, Dell, and Dorrance.
All right, Ms. Szelog, so you've heard from Mr. Townsend, we've heard from Ms. Peña here. Tell us a little bit about your experiences. I mean, I'm sure in the classroom you have different experiences. I'm sure, I mean, we deal with it every year at the opening of school sometimes, where we're dealing with AC issues, we're dealing with when it's rainy season, monsoons, we're dealing with roof leaks and those types of things. And it almost feels like, all right, it rained. Where are our leaks at, right? Those types of things. But tell us a little bit about, your, what you've heard about Proposition 416, how can this impact us in a positive way, and so tell us.
So I've definitely experienced all of those things, right? Like, broken AC, leaky roofs. I think it's just with aging, we have our aging buildings, it's bound to happen. But what I really wanted to mention is, both Mr. Townsend and Mr. Costello have mentioned how we're going for this because we are not adequately funded. And we say that, right? But it's helpful for our listeners to know that there is some facts behind that. So, recently in August of 2025, there was a lawsuit that a judge finally deemed on. It was an 8-year lawsuit against our legislature, and they were found that they are inequitably and inadequately funding our public schools. And so it's not like we're just saying this, right? There's actually truth behind it. And I think it's important for people when they're making this decision that this is the reason why. Mm-hmm. And like you had mentioned, Mr. Townsend, like no matter where you go in the state of Arizona, districts have to ask for this. And so I know that, I've been in the district for, like I said, 11 years. I've spoken to many community members about various overrides we've gone for, and then now the bond. And it's always just very comforting and encouraging when I talk to community members, because they do understand, especially when you have that one-on-one with community members about what we need this for. And they do believe in our schools and our students, and it's just unfortunate that we have to go to our community for this because our legislature is not doing what they need to do. But it's going to help us to get everything that everyone has mentioned.
Absolutely. One of the things I think about a lot is when our kids, when our kids in high school, and I'm using the high school example because a lot of our high school students travel to other schools, right? Whether it's academic decathlon, whether it's band day, whether it's some sporting event, right? And they walk onto some of these newer campuses and they're in awe, and I'm just going to mention it, I'm going to Micah Mountain High School. I mean, if you've ever been to that high school, it's like state of the art, right? Our kids, they leave their high school, they walk onto that campus, and they just can't believe their eyes. They're like, gosh, I can't believe this is a high school. This looks like a college. It looks like a mall. That's how big and how modern they are, and so I don't want our kids to feel that way. I remember being in high school and feeling that way. And I graduated from Sunnyside in the early '90s. And it was outdated then, and so And we've said it here, our kids deserve the best. They should be able to walk onto campuses feeling good, feeling like, what? They're looking out for us. They're taking care of us. They care about how we feel. And our parents, as they come on our campuses, they're going to notice those things as well. And so, we are asking the community, are asking our parents to participate, to go out and vote. We're not telling you how to vote. We're telling you, make sure you ask questions, read up. So, our message to the community is share your thoughts. Share your thoughts on what you've seen. If you've been to any of our events, if you've heard any of our information, we want you to share those thoughts, because one of the things I truly believe in is if we want great communities, right? If we want great schools, then you need to invest in students. And sometimes I hear, well, I don't have any kids that go to school, but you live in the community, right? And you chose to live in this community, you're invested in the community, support our students, right? And so, I'll tell you just a cute story. The other day, I was putting up a sign, and one of our Prop 416 signs, and when a lady walks up to me and she asked me what it was about, right? And it was cute because before I could even explain to her what we were doing, she goes, anything that says Sunnyside, I support. I support, because my kids went through Sunnyside and they're all successful, and everything we've been reading and seeing is positive. We see the difference in the buildings as we drive in the community. We see that there's new paint, that there's new parking lots, and you guys have done a lot over the last few years. And of course, I turned around and said, well, I have to thank you as a community member for supporting our override 2 years ago, and hopefully supporting this as well. But it was just so cute that she said, anything Sunnyside, I support, without me having to explain. But, I made sure I explained it to her, because it's so important that people know what they are voting for, right? And so, this election takes place November 4th. It is a mail-in ballot only. Or you could drop off your ballot at the polls on November 4th. And so the last day to mail in your ballots is October 28th. And by now you should have received your ballots. And so we're super optimistic. We're excited. We want individuals to understand the need. And when times are tough, when times are tough in a community, great communities come together, right? And so strong communities unite in times of need. And so we know, we're Sunnyside strong, and we know that our community stands behind us. And no matter what happens, we will do right by our kids, right? We will do right by our kids. And we have to tell our stories. We have our comprehensive high schools graduation rates are the highest they've ever been. Sunnyside's at 90% graduation rate. Desert View's at 88% graduation rate. And those are two very exceptional high schools that are doing great. And I don't want to, they deserve a lot of credit, but that happens because we have strong preschools, we have strong elementaries, we have strong middle schools. And so students are getting the proper experiences, and they're being successful. They are graduating successfully in high numbers, right? And so last year we had nearly 1,000 graduates between our three high schools. And, we want to, message to the community that our teachers, our counselors, all our educators are doing an amazing job of educating our students. And so, we take a lot of pride in saying that. Sometimes we're too humble in not sharing the accomplishments, but we have to. Otherwise, people will not know. So, with that, I wanted to open it up for last words. Last messages, last thoughts, comments to our listeners out there.
I am just super proud to be a Sunnyside educator, especially for the past, a decade of my life. That's I can't even believe I can say that I've been teaching for, a decade plus. But I am always in awe of how much our students and our community members and our staff, all staff, classified, certified, admin, just come together to do what's best for our community. Because I think that's what we have to do. But no one's going to help us but us. And so I'm just very proud to be a Sunnyside educator, and proud of our community for coming together for our kiddos.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Extremely proud. I wouldn't work anywhere else. I wouldn't have my kids anywhere else. I completely trust our just everyone that leads this district. I do want to give a big shout out to our communities in every aspect, because the override that passed 2 years ago has allowed us to have a lot of upgrades already. We have a new gym, we have an extra kinder playground, and the smiles on the faces of our students and the families that come through and say, wow, you have a playground that they can see from the street that's new. This is from the voting that happened 2 years ago and the money that has already been invested. We're getting new painting around our school. We are getting new signs for our school. And these are things that really bring the community just to a better place. So I do want to just shout that out and thank you for that. And I'm only excited to see, you know, how much more we can bring in and how much more the community will be proud to have schools that represent so well and have students that that give back to the communities that we grew up in.
Absolutely, well said.
Well, I love the pride that's in this room. You know, I'm feeling inspired kind of listening to what you both shared. And I started thinking about the traditions. You know, Sunnyside District has such a proud history of different traditions, you know, whether it be, there's all these, you know, great traditions with fine arts, there's sports, there's just all these beautiful things, right, district-wide. But one thing that I strongly believe does not fit in a prideful tradition kind of view of our district is aging buildings that need a lot of money invested in them. You know, I went to my, you know, you're gonna relate to this, Mr. Gastel, not our other friends here, but I went to my 30-year high school reunion last year. And you know what I found was modernized, beautiful, like really nice facilities that money had been put into in the last 30 years. I mean, truthfully, and I was just kind of walking around and I wasn't like, oh, wow, you know, I'm so sad that it didn't look like this when I was here. You know, I was like, hey, this is nice. Like, good for these kids that they get to enjoy these things. Good for these, you know, staff members that they get to come and work in these types of facilities. And that's what we should expect in our district. You know, we should expect those types of facilities for our kids, regardless of where you're at in Tucson or Pima County. Every kid deserves to feel that way, and we shouldn't view a school that is really, really in need of modernization as a proud tradition. There's other real proud traditions in Sunnyside, and it's not old buildings.
That's right. You know, and you know, one of the things, you know, that I want to put out there to the listeners is that, you know, we take this very seriously, and what we take very seriously is being fiscally responsible for these monies, right? Being transparent about how we're spending the monies. And, you know, we've talked a little bit about the override from 2 years ago, which obviously is not enough, or we wouldn't be, you know, attempting to pass a bond here. And, you know, and just to show how transparent we are, you know, if you go to our website under district override, under community, you see every project that has been done. You know, you see how every dollar has been spent. It has a breakdown from every single school and what projects have been done at that school. And I invite people to go on to our website and look at that, because, you know, we take a great deal of pride in being transparent, being good partners, right? We believe in the power of partnership, and we know that our parents, our community, our taxpayers, they're our partners, and we want to thank our community for standing behind us during these initiatives. And you know, one thing, you know, we have a great opportunity here. You know, we have a great opportunity to really change the experience, the learning experience of every student that comes through these doors. And you know, if we can get behind this, and if we can be successful with this bond effort, we promise you that you're going to see some great changes here, you know, in terms of building, in terms of appearance, in terms of you know, how people feel when they walk onto our campuses. And so, you know, we want to make sure that people take their civic duties, you know, seriously and pridefully, right? And you know, we want people to get out there and vote. And if you have any questions, you know, reach out to us. You know, our schools are open for you to walk, for you to visit, and, you know, we'll definitely make time for you to, you know, check our schools out. And in the meantime, you know, keep up with us on our website, on our social media. There's a lot of great things going on in Sunnyside, and that's because we have the support of this great community. And so, you know, with that, we're gonna go ahead and end this episode of Somos Sunnyside. Please get out there and vote, and we will see you soon. Thank you. Hasta la próxima. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Somos Sunnyside. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it entertaining. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and share our podcast with la comunidad. For updates on future episodes and more, be sure to follow us on social media and visit our website at susd12.org. We appreciate your support and can't wait to have you back for the next episode. Hasta la próxima vez en Somos Sunnyside.